is in the overpass. Have a minute. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage. He's locked in. Put 2 canisters in there with him. Fire! They're back here.
Well, hello, one and all, and welcome to Agree or Disagree the podcast. This is Kevin Olenek. You, of course, can follow me on Twitter at KEVOLE. You can subscribe to all podcasts on Spotify and iTunes, Agree or Disagree the podcast. You can add me as a friend on Facebook, Kevin Olenek, like Agree or Disagree the podcast on Facebook as well. And you also will be able to soon go, or probably can go on to KevinOlenek.com for all content. And the sound that you heard was the sound of the Incredible Hulk. As we continue, it's been a little while since we have done this, but we continue with our Marvel review up to the Avengers Endgame. And we are now going to do the second, we're going to kind of combine this, I think is what we're going to do. We're going to combine the Incredible Hulk and the Iron Man 2 into one review. We're going to do this 2 in 1, because they actually do in a weird way connect a bit, so we will do that. But we're going to start with the Incredible Hulk, and joining me as well, after a week of video upon video upon video, as the busy NFL season, the busy part of the NFL off season has kind of slowed down for a little bit. Mitch Milani, have you gotten any sleep?
I actually just had a nap. I'm ready to go, Kevin. Let's go. Let's talk about some Marvel.
All right, let's do it. Well, it was the movie that scientist Bruce Banner desperately seeks a cure for the gamma radiation that contaminated his cells and turned him into the Hulk. Cut off from his true love, Betty Ross, played by Liv Tyler, and forced to hide from his nemesis, General Thunderbolt Ross, played by William Hurt, Banner soon comes face-to-face with a new threat, a supremely powerful enemy known as the Abomination. The release date on this in Canada was June 13, 2008, was directed by Louis Leterrier. It had a box office of $263.4 million US, and this was also a reboot of a movie that did not do very well. It was Ang Lee's version of The Incredible Hulk. Did you see that? Do you remember that movie?
I never saw it. I still haven't seen it to this day, and I don't know if I really care to be honest.
Ang Lee just had a very different way of directing The Incredible Hulk. I just don't know if his style really fit into what they were doing, played by Eric Bana. But again, as we talked about in the Iron Man original series, this was part of the reboot, and it was the reboot to the Hulk, which is a really important character, the Incredible Hulk, in the Marvel world. He was a guy that we have Bruce Banner, the science guy, battling with this green guy who's out of control. It's a very important underestimated, underappreciated character maybe in Marvel world. What do you think?
I don't know. I really feel like it's just a movie that it's hard to really grade or talk about because, for one, it really has no impact on the franchise other than the switch in main character, which we'll see later on in the franchise. And then the second thing is, this is the movie to me out of all of them that seems kind of out of place in tone. Like, I think at this point, this is the second movie in the franchise, so they're still sort of figuring out what their tone and what their actual formula is going to be for the Marvel formula, and I still think that this kind of is a little bit on one side while the other films, especially after this movie, completely take a different direction.
Yeah, it's true because it's really hard in this one to really see where it fits in the whole plot other than William Hurt is really the only actor from this cast that has continued on in any way in the Marvel series, which I think is one part of that. And because there was the change in actor, I think it changed the story arc of the Hulk. It's the Edward Norton version of Bruce Banner. And what he wanted, I feel, is much different than what Mark Ruffalo has brought to Bruce Banner. Do you think that that's true?
I think whenever it comes to an actor, I think you need to suit what the actor, not only is what they're trying to go for, as in the character, but also what they would probably be best suited to depict. So I think in a way you're right on that. But I want to say this right off the beginning. Both of these actors are amazing.
Yeah, no, I don't think that there's any dispute about the performances of either one of them. But
like, I think Edward Norton is an incredible actor just in general.
Yeah, no, but I don't think that has ever been the dispute with Edward Norton has not been his talent in the front of the camera. The dispute about Edward Norton has been behind the camera, and apparently, I have never worked with Edward Norton, but apparently he's been known to be difficult to work with.
Fair enough. And also on the same note, I also think Mark Ruffalo is a great actor, and this is not only looking at just their superhero time and superhero films, but outside of that, they've had very successful careers. If they never had these movies, especially Mark Ruffalo, in terms of because he's had a lot of success with this franchise, he would still be considered a great actor, and definitely Edward Norton the same.
Yeah, absolutely. I would totally agree with that. Hang on, Mitch. There's someone at my door here. Just a second. I'm just going to pause for a second here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I had someone at my door. Pardon me. Had to we just won't edit that out. That's like 2 seconds, but we had a little pause there. Sorry about that. But yeah, they're both great actors. But I also don't know if the one thing I will say is I don't know if Edward Norton would have. I think that what Mark Ruffalo ended up bringing to the Bruce Banner character, I feel is right for where we are in Avengers universe.
It's impossible to know for sure, but I understand what you're saying. He fits what they're doing. Like, this is what I was saying right at the beginning. He fits what they're doing tone-wise better. Like, just in terms of what Marvel wanted to be as an entity on screen, a little bit more kind of light, a little bit more with the cheese, a little bit more with the kind of heart. That is what Mark Ruffalo can bring to the character. As Edward Norton's character, at least in this film, was a lot different from what Mark Ruffalo was asked to do.
Yeah, I agree. And then the Liv Tyler in this, she played the love interest. And she brought I felt like she brought a lot of the old cheese to the Incredible Hulk. And in terms of tone, that doesn't necessarily fit with where Marvel went. I'm not saying that Marvel doesn't have a bit of cheese to it now, But I feel like it's a different sort of cheese. I don't feel like Liv Tyler fits in the Marvel universe.
I do think that one of the strong points of this film, you may disagree with me, is actually their relationship. I think that is, for me, when I watch it, I think that's one of the things that I like the most out of the movie is the relationship between Bruce Banner and Betty Ross. Personally,
I think that their relationship really does work within the confines of that movie. It does. I just don't know if we would have seen her. I think that one of the things, and we'll get into this a little bit more when we talk about Thor, is sort of the strategic use of using the character, kind of the underlying characters, not necessarily the main characters, not necessarily the Hulks, the Thors, but sort of the underlying characters, like who they picked from the Black Panther universe to continue on in Avengers, who they picked in the Thor world to go on. I think that for the most part, they've been pretty wise about that.
I will say one of the weaknesses of Marvel is their love interest. They've definitely not been good at nailing that down and making them memorable in any individual movie or in the franchise in general. Like, I can't really point out and say that any of the love interests or relationships, I know it's not really like a main part of the film, and maybe we'll see it going forward with Spider-Man because that's a crucial part of the character. But again, this isn't my Spider-Man, it's other people's Spider-Man. We'll see what happens, but like, I think that that's been one of the weaknesses of Marvel in terms of the storytelling perspective, has been just the relationship aspect, the romance aspect.
Yeah, because they haven't nailed it quite down with Captain America.
Honestly, they sort of do in the first movie, but we just don't see enough of it.
Yeah.
So like, it's hard to like that. I would say honestly, that's the best one they have. Which we'll talk about that when we get to that movie. Yeah, and I think the way that we'll talk about that at Iron Man 2, because I don't think that Pepper Potts and Tony Stark are bad. I think that it's not bad, but it definitely took a huge a step backward. The first movie was good, and then I felt like it kind of took a huge step backward in the second movie, and maybe the third movie I'll have to watch it again, but I felt like it was okay, but it didn't blow me away.
Yeah. And
that was a main part of the movie too, which they didn't necessarily mess it up, but it just wasn't as strong as you would have hoped.
Yeah. So this one, it's really tough to, I agree with you. It's tough to review this in terms of how we lay this into the landscape of the Marvel world, because it feels like the outlier. But I still think, in terms of a Hulk movie, I thought that they did a lot of really good things with this. And I thought that the way that they introduced the Hulk specifically was neat. One of the latest incarnations of Godzilla kind of had the idea from this whole version of Hulk of how to introduce the Hulk. But what I found funny, and I don't know if you found it funny yourself, was the look of the Hulk was weird. Looking back,
this is what I'm talking about with the tone of the movie.
Yeah.
This movie came out when?
2008.
2008. So this is the same year as Iron Man and The Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what exactly tone-wise they were going for, but like it just seems darker. Like, it seems darker than a Marvel movie, and that reflects in how the Hulk actually looks. Like, it almost seems like they're going for a little bit of the horror in the character itself. Like, for the Hulk, he is sort of like this big, crazy, uncontrollable monster, which I feel like they do a really good job of nailing that part of the character in this movie. I feel like the whole premise and the aspect that they're going for is that he's like a scientist on the run, and he's trying to find, this cure, and he's basically like, he has this temper that he can't control, and he can't control the Hulk. Like, he's Bruce Banner, but he can't control when he becomes the Hulk, and that's when we've seen the evolution throughout these movies of what's gone down with the Hulk. But I think that aspect of it, they did a really good job of, and that also sort of reflects in how the Hulk looks. I don't know if I would say he looks weird, but he just looks like a little bit more horror, a little bit more scary.
Yeah, I don't know, but like looking back, and it didn't feel like the traditional Incredible Hulk, like the one that we've known and that has been known. It looked different, and to me, looking back and watching that back, that disconnected to me a bit, and it didn't allow me to kind of, I was like, he's back.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Transformers.
I have tried to wipe the Transformers from my mind, but go ahead.
You know why, though? Because, like, what you're just talking about, the traditional Hulk. Like, the Hulk is a little bit more, in the traditional sense, he's not as, like, I don't want to say scary, but he's just, like, the character looks a little bit more friendlier than what this Hulk looks like. And in the Transformers franchise, it's the exact same thing until, like, Bumblebee came out recently. None of their characters look like necessarily friendly or like that they were made for kids initially. Like, with Transformers, they took the product with Michael Bay and made it like a teenager type of movie and tried to make it kind of coolish style. And I feel like they sort of took the same thing with the Hulk. Yeah.
Yeah, I can certainly see what you're saying there. I wiped out the Transformers after the first couple. I was like, I'm done. I have to admit, I have not seen a Transformers movie since the second one.
Sidebar, I will say I like the first movie.
Okay, but yeah, that was about it for me. I didn't need to see anymore. It didn't go out of my way to see it. But yeah, so really the start of this movie is all about Bruce Banner, and he's on the run in South America. He's communicating with someone in the States named Dr. Green in terms of a way to find a cure, and some blood ends up in a pop bottle, and that pop bottle is sent to the States. And we have a Stan Lee cameo where Stan Lee drinks the pop, and something weird happens. And then that leads to where the William Hurt character, Thunderbolt Ross, and his friend gang comes down with Tim Roth and tries to capture Bruce Banner, and they cannot because they realize that he turns into the Hulk. But a little underrated story of this which left it in the outside a little bit, because there really was nowhere else to go. But I did enjoy the Tim Roth, the Abomination backstory. I really think that they did that really well. Sort of this intrigue, he gets intrigued with his power. He finds it fascinating. We don't see him as we see him as an interesting guy, but like just the whole backstory around how he becomes the Abomination, I thought was interesting.
Okay, I will agree with you there, but once the Abomination actually gets to the screen, that's where they lose me.
There's some things that they...
Like, I understand what you're saying with the storyline aspects, and I think, like, there were some really strong points that they hit that I felt like when I watched it, again, I felt like, okay, this is kind of different. Like, there's some certain Marvel movies where it's like, okay, it's the same thing. It's the same kind of Marvel movie. But then, like, in a positive way, there are other ones that maybe they don't land 100% of the time, but there are things they're trying to do with the movie that actually land well, and it's different from the other films in the franchise, which make it kind of stand out in a way. And I feel like that aspect of the power and of, like, the whole kind of uncontrollable, like, just devastation and that sort of stuff, I felt like was really well done.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah, so Banner's running away. He has to end up in the States at the college. He runs into Betty, and Betty is with someone else. Breaks Bruce Banner's heart, but they do run into each other a little bit later on in the movie, and there's this moment. And Liv Tyler, let's quickly just talk about Liv Tyler here. For all that she went through, she actually wasn't terrible at acting. I didn't mind her. I mean, she did Armageddon. It was sort of a similar thing to what she did.
I think she's good in this movie.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with her. I enjoyed her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed her. I thought she was fine. And then we had the revelation that Betty Ross, but that we did not know her name was Betty Ross at the time. And Thunderbolt Ross were father and daughter, and which created a nice little. That created an interesting dynamic because of that relationship. And then we meet Dr. Green, which is just kind of this nerdy-ish dude who is the scientist, and we're kind of all hoping it feels at that point that he has a cure, but he actually is not in it for the cure. He's actually was creating other Incredible Hulks type things. He was a fascinating guy. I can't remember his name right off the top. I'm just going through the IMDb here. He was an interesting guy, but he wasn't one of those guys that I wanted to see more of as we went on. I don't know about you.
Which character?
The science dude.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, forgettable.
Forget it. Yeah. But there was also, I did miss this, but one of the things that I did think was great was the pizza delivery scene where Bruce Banner walks by Lou Ferrigno. I thought that was a nice little touch.
Oh, yeah.
That's
good.
That was great.
That's good fan service there.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, and then they got into the end little fight there. Samuel Stearns is the scientific guy played by Tim Blake Nelson. Yeah, it was fine. I didn't really sit there and go, oh my gosh, this is a guy that I wanted to see again. There are other characters that are this wasn't this guy. We see Tim Roth become the Abomination. Tim Roth character become the Abomination, and then they have ultimately the fight. And maybe I'm watching these with 2019 eyes now, Mitch, but that fight was not well done. I actually had a hard time watching that fight.
Yeah, I felt like the best action scene in the film was, I really liked the one with the army at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I like the one where he is fighting everybody off in that school looking thing.
Yeah, the one we played at the beginning there. Yeah.
Yeah, I like those two scenes. They're very Incredible Hulk scenes, and I think they do a good job of telling the story that they're trying to tell. At the end, it just becomes some Godzilla crazy fest. I don't even know what to say about it.
Yeah, it was a little too messy, a little too clunky. But of course, the Hulk wins. He ends up going away. He ends up in British Columbia. And no word if he was anywhere near here, but he was we saw him at the end of British Columbia. He had a little letter from Betty. And that's basically pretty much a quick synopsis in 24 minutes on the Incredible Hulk. So did I miss anything in this?
Not crucial. I think you could just touch on what happens at the very end.
Yes, let's just quickly play that here, because that's important here, and that will kind of lead us into the next part here. So we'll just play this.
I know it's a part.
Yeah, that was it. That was transitioned us, and that gave us that we were going on into the Avengers storyline. That was Tony Stark preparing us for Iron Man 2. What did you think of that end credit scene?
It was fun. Anytime you have Tony Stark there, it's fun.
Yeah. And he did it was a nice little dramatic entrance. It was a nice little way to connect everything. That was really the only thing that I found that was a true connection, was that story, that we're putting a team together.
I do want to say, Kev, I like that though.
Yeah.
Because this is only your second film. You're shooting this at the same time as Iron Man. So you don't know if Iron Man is going to be this incredible thing yet. So you can't, throughout the first, 4 movies? It doesn't get till Iron Man 2, it's because it's the sequel, where we really see any sort of Marvel, we're building this Avengers, we're doing all this, okay, this is going to set up that, and we're going to see Thanos, and blah, 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 blah. It's just, okay, let's get Iron Man, let's get Hulk, let's get Cap, let's get Thor, let's do it individually, tell their origin stories, let's not really worry about it, let's just make it a good, try and make as best a movie as we can, and nail the main character as best we can. And although The Incredible Hulk doesn't do that perfectly, I do like that they didn't try to make it this big, that has been a huge DC issue when they started the thing, and I think they just basically saw what Marvel did without actually accounting for, then Marvel didn't try and introduce this whole big scheme of things until they actually got some movies under their belt.
Yeah, they weren't. I agree with. I agree with you. The demise of what DC did is amazing. But I think you're right in the sense that they brought. They took their time in telling the bigger picture of the story, and they took their time within the creative process of where they were going to go. I don't know if they. I feel like DC wanted to just splash everything and get there and almost race Marvel to the end, where I think Marvel just had it. Marvel didn't have it in. Marvel's Endgame wasn't really revealed until much later in this process.
Marvel's Endgame was Endgame.
What's that?
Marvel's Endgame is titled Endgame.
There we go. See? Well done by me. Do you notice how I connected that? Way to go, Kevin. Well done. But yeah, I think it took some time. Thank you. I'll take that applause. But it took some time, and I think, and that was really the only connection that it needed. It goes on it doesn't. I think a lot of people forget that this is part of the Marvel storyline, because it really isn't a huge part of the Marvel storyline. So I have this on the lower half of my Marvel list. Probably somewhere in the bottom 5 for sure. I don't know where you. I
would say mine is in the bottom 3.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's fair. There's probably 1 or 2 that we're going to.
And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's not a bad movie. I just think it's not a great movie, or it's not really memorable. And the biggest thing about it is that you don't really need to watch it.
Yeah, not really. No, you don't. But the next movie that we will be reviewing is going to be one that you know what?
I think it's going to be interesting to see what we think about this movie.
Yes, it is. And that is
absolutely. Our priority here is to have you turn over the Iron Man.
It is Iron Man
to people.
Well, you can forget it. We're safe. America is secure. You want my property? You can't have it. But I did you a big favor. I've successfully privatized world peace.
We're done for the day. You've been a delight.
Okay, give me a smooch for good luck. I might not make it back.
Go get him, boss.
That's right. That is a bit of the trailer to Iron Man 2, starring Robert Downey Jr. Gwyneth Paltrow, the late, great Gary Shandling, and much, much more. That basically the plot synopsis of this one, which is basically we want the world now aware that he is Iron Man. Billionaire inventor Tony Stark faces pressure from all sides to share his technology with the military. He is reluctant to divulge the secrets of his armored suit, fearing the information will fall into the wrong hands. With Pepper Potts, played by Gwyneth Paltrow, and Rhodey Rhodes, played by Don Cheadle by his side, Tony must forge new alliances and confront a powerful new enemy. This was directed by Jon Favreau. This made $623.9 million and was released on May 7th, 2010. And this was really interesting, Mitch, because this was one of those movies that at the time, it did get, it had good reviews, but it didn't have, I think that there was a lot of disappointment at the time with this movie.
I think because the first movie set such a high bar for what we expected from Iron Man, there might have been a little bit of disappointment in terms of the bigger the better. But I still think the main things that happen in Iron Man 1, although not as good, still exist within this movie.
Well, I actually think that this movie is quite significant, and I actually enjoyed watching it this time more than I did originally because you saw where this whole story was going, and maybe it was because I watched Captain Marvel, so when I watched Nick Fury, I had Captain Marvel in my head a little bit. It's like, oh, interesting. That's when he's talking about Howard Stark. There's more to that conversation than what meant that we were meant to. To me, maybe that helped, but I thought there was a lot of meat in here to pick off about where it ended up going. And really, this is the movie that takes us, in comparison to where we were just here on Incredible Hulk. The Iron Man 2, I think, takes us on the direction of where we're going with the Avenger Initiative.
I agree that is kind of a cool aspect looking back on it, but it does sort of weigh the movie down in terms of an actual movie independent experience because you're trying to set so many things up. I think that's the main issue with the film. I think the film is really fun. Like I'll watch Iron Man 2 anytime. Somebody wants to watch Iron Man 2, I'll watch it because it's a lot of fun and I have a good time watching it and I like these characters and I enjoy these moments and these scenes. But at the same time, like that stuff that they're trying to build does weigh the movie down in some parts of the film. Like I think it is, like we talked about with The Incredible Hulk, it is the movie that kind of catapults it to, okay, there's this bigger picture going on. But at the same time, it's just a little bit messy, which keeps it back from being a really good movie.
Yeah, okay, and that's fair. That's fair. This basically we start basically this Iron Man is driving fast, or Tony Stark's driving fast, and we're having his Stark Expo. He is signing autographs, kissing babies. Basically is like living up this Tony Stark lifestyle. He has a cool little mansion on the beach there in Malibu. He's got life going all the way through. Like, this guy's got it.
Kev, honestly, like, I want that house.
Yeah. Well, when you get to the NFL Network, I'm sure that you'll be able to afford it, right?
I'm just saying, it would be pretty cool.
Yeah. But then we get to the point that, of course, the U.S. government wants his weapons, and we see Gary Shandling, and I do think that it was quite interesting to learn a little bit. We'll get into the Gary Shandling character a little bit later, and he is, as I try to remember his name, Senator Stern. He's in this as the head of the committee to get the weapons back, and we learn a little bit later, not to spoil anything, that Senator Stern was part of Hydra. We'll learn about that in a future movie. But And it was also interesting to see Olivia Munn in the movie as a reporter and Kate Mara as the U.S. Marshal that subpoenaed Tony Stark as well. So there was some interesting little future cast people in here, that future stars in bigger movies and bigger things going forward. But I really did enjoy that scene in the courtroom. I thought was quite fantastic. I enjoyed that. Did you not?
That was awesome. That was just pure Tony Stark. There's so many movies or so many parts in this movie where it's just like his character. And they had it in this film. This is the first time it showed up, and then we'll see it in Avengers again. I think I've said this before. We need shoot to thrill in another movie with Iron Man in it. It needs to happen.
Shoot to thrill.
It's honestly the perfect song for Tony Stark. If I do not hear Shoot to Thrill in Endgame, I'm going to leave the theater. No, just kidding. But seriously, like, it's awesome.
With all the expectations of we'll get into, we'll talk, maybe we'll end this on talking about, not end the review, but we'll talk a little bit more in the preview, the latest trailer. What is actually going to be longer in people's mind? WrestleMania or Avengers Endgame? With all the expectation.
Nothing beats WrestleMania. I think WrestleMania will be 3 Endgames.
Yeah, pretty much. But
that one scene with Donnie there, Don Cheadle.
Yes, this was also
like,
the revelation.
They're having a party and he's wasted, and they're fighting each other in the suits. I think is so fun.
Yeah. Now
it really doesn't do anything other than just show that like it's getting to Tony's head. Like that's what the whole thing is about. Is like it gets to Tony's head that he's Iron Man and he doesn't really want to give up. That he loves the power of being Iron Man and like the whole cool part of being Iron Man. And but that fight is just so awesome.
Yeah. And the revelation of Rhodes as Don Cheadle, I thought just was a nice touch in the movie. How they said, we are, although everybody knew that, it was just like, it was a nice way that they did that. And this was also, we met in this scene Justin Hammer, played by Sam Rockwell. Kind of the opposite of Tony Stark in a lot of ways, but he had a lot of fun with the Justin Hammer character.
Cool, but he's not.
What's that?
He tries hard to be cool, but he's not. Well,
yeah.
Tony can try hard, and he is.
Yeah. Like it's one of those things that there's people in life that does things that they in their brain think it's cool, but us in the audience realize it's not. That's the life of Justin Hammer, right there.
Justin Hammer is the most underrated villain in any of these movies. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Sam Rockwell like kills this role.
Yeah.
And like not did I really notice this until I saw it like recently. I was like, I liked this guy before, but he's even better now.
Yeah.
The ex-wife, like how can you get better than that?
Yeah. Yeah, that was just the whole, like, we got to know him a little bit better. There was an appearance here of Elon Musk. And of course, the main villain in this was Ivan Vanko, played by Mickey Rourke. The movie kind of starts from his perspective. This was a guy that it was interesting to Mickey at the time. Mickey Rourke almost won the Oscar for The Wrestler, or was in the Academy Award picture for The Wrestler, which I did enjoy as a movie and would recommend people watch. So he was in the midst of Mickey Rourke was in the midst of a comeback after being away for a while. I know a lot of people didn't seem to like him, but I enjoyed him in this one.
I think his story is underdeveloped, and this is where the film kind of, if they would have spent more time on his character and his backstory and the whole thing with his dad, like on paper, it's really good, but they don't really dive into it, and so you don't necessarily fully invest into his story, and it doesn't really fully pay off. I think while Iron Man 1 was great because they spent a lot of time on Iron Man, I think in Iron Man 2, people were looking to see a little bit more of the people around Iron Man. And still, Tony Stark and Iron Man are still the best part of the movie. And I felt like they needed to add a little bit to it. Like, outside of Justin Hammer, which is incredible, like, I feel like if they would have spent more time on Ivan Vanko, it would have been better. Like, if Mickey had a bigger, like, just a more in-depth story, it would have probably went over better in my mind, but instead they spent more time on building the whole universe.
Yeah, and this was we got to know a little bit more of. There was also the introduction of a lady named Natasha, who was quite pretty. And
wait, who?
Natasha.
Also, the way that they introduce her in this movie is awesome.
Yes, and it's great because it's so subtle, and then like her story, like. Yes, you're right. I think the Iron Man story was a key one, but they did develop her story. We're talking about Natasha Romanoff.
They kind of planted the seeds.
Yeah.
But I felt like it went over so well because obviously Scarlett Johansson is like a smoke show, especially in 2010.
Yeah.
But like, it's so stereotypically like portrayed, and then she just beats like Happy's butt in the ring. And then you see, like, that one scene, I love that scene where it's, like, near the end, final fight, and they're looking for Ivan, and she, like, beats everybody up, and, like, Happy, like, knocks one dude out, and he's like, yeah, I got him.
Yeah.
That one.
it was, yeah. And there was a lot of, yeah, and I think it was the way that Happy played that, as Jon Favreau played that as well. But yeah, she was well developed, and we got to meet a little bit more of Fury here, and what he was looking for. Then it was basically revealed that Natasha was part of the Shield, and that evolution, and then basically Tony moves on. Decides he doesn't want to be Iron Man, or he doesn't want all of this anymore, and Pepper Potts is left to run the company. I thought it was a great scene when he comes back to the office, and of all the things that he brings, and he brings strawberries, and of course Pepper Potts is allergic. But what was also neat is through this development was the relationship. We got to know his father, Howard Stockwitz, was played by John Slattery.
Shout out to Mad Men,
yes.
Real quick.
Yeah, and I thought the interplay of that relationship and the expectations of the two were quite interesting, especially, I guess, even not from the film for sure, and then going forward.
I liked how they played into the fact that he didn't really like his father.
Yeah.
And then it ends up flipping, especially... And once we get to like Civil War, he becomes to appreciate what he was and like what he did. So that's good. Like at this point, still in Iron Man 1 and 2, he didn't really like his father at all. Like he seemed to kind of hate him and almost like despise him for being killed. What was I going to say? Oh, the strawberry scene.
Yeah.
I love it when he gives his watch to the guy for strawberries.
Yeah. Yeah, that was...
Yeah, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like...
And it was interesting because of the interesting parallel of Ivan Vanko and his father, which was more of, I want to honor him, I want to complete his work, and Tony wanted to distance himself. So we had an interesting conflict there in terms of that. Which played kind of well into the movie, and I thought it was a great scene when Tony says, I thought one of my favorite lines of the movie is, still teaching me after you've been dead for 20 years. I thought that was a really great line. It kind of was, we saw an evolution, we saw the continued evolution of the man Tony Stark, I thought.
I think the best line is the line like right before that, where it's like, my greatest invention was you or something.
Yeah, that
always seems to get me.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It always seems to get me, though.
Yeah.
I like that line.
That whole scene, I thought, went really well. And then, of course, we get to the expo. There was another great scene where Justin Hammer's doing his expo. He's doing a little Tony Stark dance, and that doesn't work very well at all. And it's just very awkward. I'm drawing a blank.
How about that scene? Who's the reporter girl?
Olivia Munn. Oh, the other one.
Leslie.
Yes, Leslie.
Where she's like with him, Justin Hammer, and they're at like something. I don't remember where they are, but it's like she's doing a story on Justin Hammer, and then we get Pepper's like, yeah, she did quite the spread on Tony just last year. I love that line.
Oh yeah. Which is, yeah, it's quite funny because her and Sam Rockwell are actually together, which is quite fascinating.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, I felt like that scene was just funny, but also because of the way that Leslie like sold it, it almost like the joke went right over her head. Like she didn't even like like if you look at that scene again, you'll just see her like what? Like she doesn't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah. So we get we get that. The U.S. government is developing Iron Man's weapons because of Justin Hammer. And, of course, they don't work very well. And, of course, Stark's does. And then we get into we're moving a little bit further along here. There were some other interesting things I kind of glossed over here, but kind of the point that Nick Fury and Coulson, of course, Phil Coulson, played by Clark Gregg, is in this movie as well. And they make him do work and tell him that they can't leave until he gets work done, which was sort of a setup for the future. And then Coulson had to leave because there was something going on in another state, which we will get to in a little bit. And, of course, he had the Captain America shield, which was absolutely hilarious, though, too, as he just kind of uses it. We're all like, that's very important. And he just uses it as a standstill to level.
Who was it in the room with them? It was...
there was Coulson, and I think that's it.
Okay, that's why. Yeah. He's like, you know what that is? He's like, perfect. And that also plays into what we'll see with Captain America and Iron Man later, where in Avengers, I don't know if this also has to do with how he really felt about his father, because his father had a big part in Captain America, like the existence of Captain America, but like the whole kind of disrespect for him that Iron Man sort of has, and Captain America not respecting him either. Like at the beginning of Avengers, I think they're talking back and forth, and like, you know, Captain America's like, you're not the guy to make the sacrifice play, and Iron Man's like just making fun of him because he's a Boy Scout and stuff like that. So they don't really respect each other. And then that whole thing, I feel like in sort of a small way, starts with that scene with the shield.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I can see what you're saying there. Again, that relationship is quite fascinating because there's even that scene in Civil War where Tony says to Steve Rogers, sometimes I want to punch you in your perfect little teeth. Yeah,
they're kind of like Batman and Superman, where they hate each other, but they're also best friends.
Yeah, sometimes in women groups they say this, but men have frenemies too. They're frenemies in some ways.
For sure.
Yeah. But there's the fight, and everybody's kind of fighting. We get into kind of the end there where they have to find Justin Hammer, and they have to find the Birdman, Vanko. There wasn't anything like, I mean, the final fight was a final fight. There wasn't anything too memorable for that for me. I don't know what you thought of that.
The final fight?
Yeah.
It's underwhelming.
Yeah, I think so too a little bit. But go on. Why do you think it's underwhelming?
I just feel like it doesn't really. It's not. First of all, it's not long enough. it really only lasts like a few moments, and it doesn't really. It feels like it's underwhelming at the same time because it's not like this big epic event that we'll see with other Marvel movies. Like, it doesn't really seem like it has a ton of stakes, and it doesn't really bring anything new in terms of action to the character that we've not previously seen. So I feel like that's why it was a little bit underwhelming. While there were some good comedy points to it and some decent moments, I actually really like the when he's in the car in the racing scene, that original introduction to the villain. I really like that action scene a lot.
That was a great scene, yeah.
Even compared to the ending scene where it's kind of just like, okay, they're fighting a bunch of robots and they're having like this buddy cop kind of moment. But other than that, it's not like anything that we haven't seen before. And again, I think it's a little short.
Yeah, actually, it's funny because I think that was the struggle in 2 and 3. Is I didn't feel that the final fight scene in either of those scenes were very well done. And I think we'll get into Iron Man 3. I think that there was such a huge letdown in that movie, for me anyway. But
it's funny because in a Russo film, Iron Man has had like the best action scenes in all of them, I would say, outside of the one he's not in, which is Winter Soldier, I think. But from like the ones where it's just Iron Man's film, his action scenes are a little bit underwhelming.
Yeah, because it almost you really that car chase movie that we see Vonko in, that almost feels like you could have ended the movie there in some ways because that felt like such a final fight. But of course we had more to go for that. But that felt
the coolest
better.
part of that was how they introduced the suit. With the suitcase.
Yeah.
That is something they've done with Iron Man every movie. They find a new way to like him to like get the suit or something.
Yeah. Yes, they've done it. Yeah, we talked about that before, but they've done a really interesting way of finding a way to bring that suit to life. Which I think is going to be interesting with the Endgame, how they do that as well. But did I miss anything else that we covered pretty much the whole movie? I think. Did we miss anything?
Outside of the moment where he's eating donuts, I think we covered everything.
Yes, he is eating donuts in sort of a. I thought that was kind of an homage a little bit to Spider-Man and some other heroes. Yeah, that was a pretty funny movie part of that as well.
Donut time,
yeah. Yeah, that was
Yeah, but overall, I think Iron Man kind of gets a bad rep. I think a lot of people don't like it for whatever reason. I think a lot of those people that say that haven't seen it recently.
Yeah, because I do think that there's some richness to this, especially Nick Fury, especially the Natasha Romanoff, that the whole backstory of her, I think, and Pepper Potts. I do think that there's stuff about all of these characters that we got to know a little bit more, which I did appreciate, which I think makes it a little bit of a better movie for me.
And I will say with the Iron Man series, I think that they're all essential to watch for Endgame. Like, if you want to understand like the characters and the core of what this universe is about, watch the Iron Man movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I do agree. And so I don't have it Iron Man 2 in the bottom, but I don't have it at the top. I'm sort of in the middle with the...
I think, okay, there's what, 21 movies?
I think so, yes.
I would probably have it around like 16-ish.
I would agree. I think it's around 15, 16 in there somewhere. I thought, but I do. It is a movie that I think didn't have the appreciation at the time, but I think it is once you compare it to where we're going with Endgame, where I think that's interesting. But I would say around 15 for sure.
I think a good way to put that, Kev, is it's a film that does things out of necessity that hurt the film, but they needed to do them because they were essential, which in the end of things make the movie better. It's like it's a weird way of looking at a film, but it's like they needed to do these things in a film, and they just happened to choose this one.
Yes. Yeah. And we do need to talk about the end credit scene, so we'll just play a little bit of this here. If it plays. Hang on. Let's try this again. Technical issues. Hang on. It is playing.
So, we found it.
Yes, the introduction of the hammer of Thor, which was the sort of another piece in the Avengers puzzle. In terms of end credit scenes, were you excited about this? Were you intrigued? Did you know what that was? What were your thoughts?
I don't really remember it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's the scene in Thor, of course. All the end credit scenes are a scene in some way, shape, or form, but that's the whole, and then the hammer is it's basically the scene where Thor loses the hammer from Asgard and it lands on Earth, and that's when Phil.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think at the time I was really excited about it because I wasn't a huge Thor fan for a while. I would say I wasn't really a huge Thor fan until like probably 2 years ago.
That's fair. Okay. Yeah, but that was pretty, that set the Thor, that was kind of the beginning of the Thor part of the Avengers storyline. But that's Iron Man 2. Let's quickly, of course, there has been some other Marvel news that has come out, including a new Avengers trailer, and I will, let's just give me a second here to find it. And also, Captain Marvel came out. We are planning to review that. I want to review that a little bit quicker, and I do have a couple of people also, Mitch, just so you know, that are going to join us for that.
Right.
But I think that you and I are in a little bit of a disagreement on this. So let's quickly talk about that, and then we'll talk about the Avengers trailer. So I think you had more of a negative review to this than I did.
Yes, I'm not a huge fan of Captain Marvel. I didn't really the film didn't grab me. I think with Marvel, the best thing they've done has been nailing their main characters, especially in their first effort. And I felt like watching Captain Marvel from beginning to end, I didn't really come away really knowing what this character is about. And I really felt like the charisma was lacking from that main character. Otherwise, I just felt like it was a fine movie that didn't really do a lot new or creative. It was just a part of the scheme of Marvel and cookie cutter sort of thing that they've done before, which I want to see some new thing. It's the 20th movie in the series. I want to see them do something a little bit different. So that's where my criticism lies, mainly. We will get into it a little bit more when we get to the movie, but that's my main thoughts.
My quick synopsis of this is I thought Brie Larson was absolutely perfect as Carol Danvers and Captain Marvel. I thought that she brought in the right tone of cockiness and confidence. So I really enjoyed her as that. I felt there was a lot of interesting little touches and tributes and things that I really enjoyed in terms of what they brought. And I thought that the origin story prepared us to tell us more origin stories, which is one of the things I was really a fan of, because you can do a couple of more Captain Marvel movies going forward. You have the story of the Dambo story where you can tell. You had I thought there was just an interesting connection between her story and the Black Panther story, and her story and the Captain America story. There's so much more that was there. I thought there was a lot of meat. And the cat was, I loved the cat. I thought the cat was great. And I know that some people were challenged by who the villain ended up being, but I mean, if you followed the comic book, and you follow those stories, I think, yeah, that works. Worked for me. I really enjoyed it. I thought it had a lot of life, and I thought it showed a lot of potential for things that they can do going forward in the next phase of the Avengers story.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit more, but we'll talk about that. But the other big news that got everybody going was this.
Gosh, like 1,000 years ago, I fought my way out of that cave, became Iron Man. Realized I loved you. I know I said no more surprises, but I was really hoping to pull off one last one.
The world has changed. None of us can go back. All we can do is our best. And sometimes the best we can do is to start over.
I saw all these people die. I keep telling everybody they should move on. Some do, but not us.
Even if there's a small chance, we owe this to everyone who's not in this room to try.
We will. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. I like this one.
Yes, the second trailer for Avengers Endgame came out since our last time that we recorded. Of course, the movie April 26th. What did you think of this trailer, Mitch? What were your thoughts?
It was a great trailer. I love the look back at the characters originally, where they've been, where they're going. And I really liked the kind of character moment with Iron Man, kind of seeing where he's at. But I also like how they kind of tease some stuff, but don't give anything really away. I think that's been the strength of the Avengers trailers recently, has been that they don't really give any of the story away so much. They just kind of give you those characters, a little bit of those moments, and a little bit of a tease with the whole suits and looking like they're going to jump back into time, but we'll see.
Yeah, there is so much out there about, I think, what people are thinking. It's so fascinating because one theory out there right now is that entire trailer is the first hour of the movie.
That's probably true.
They
don't want to give anything away. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's very possible and probably likely that they go back in time to multiple events that have happened in the MCU, and you see them go through those events again, and you kind of get like this Back to the Future like 2 thing going on. I think that's probably going to happen. We'll probably have to have a whole show on like theories, because I swear this is probably the most theory-based film I've probably ever.
Of all time. I think that this actually, I will boldly say that there are more theories on the Avengers Endgame than there have been on Star Wars.
Yeah, I think so.
And
I think that's a credit to Marvel for hiding a lot of the information, but also doing such a good job of making people believe, like making people want to see a film, but also not giving anything away. That is incredible.
Yeah.
That's hard to do.
Yeah. Because there's so, and it's so fascinating also, because I think one of the things that they have done really well is they've also kept the IMDb rather secret, and had people scratching their head, because Tilda Swinton is in Avengers Endgame. She is on the IMDb, but Benedict Cumberbatch is not. Tom Holland is on there. Frank Grillo is in there as well, as a character. There's so much that they are not. It's so fascinating what they're doing. But I do think that there is some time. I do agree that there's some time stuff going on for sure. And I also think that the way that they have ordered these films out have been for a reason. I think that the story of what happened in Captain Marvel, I think is going to be so significant what happens in the Endgame.
I hope not, because I want it to be focused on the characters that we've been watching for the last 10 years.
Not Captain Marvel necessarily specifically, but some of the things that we learned about the Tesseract and some of those things. Because I do think it has to be, I think for the movie to be effective, it has to focus on Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor.
As it should.
Because I do think that they're the 3 most important people in the Avengers universe at this point in time. And I think that you can go and have Captain Marvel lead some other stuff in the future. And I do think it's important. I know that Chris Hemsworth's contract is up, but I have not heard that Chris Hemsworth has said anything about not playing Thor again. I have not read.
Yeah, I think Cap's definitely dying.
Yeah.
Iron Man, it's up for debate. I could see a Dark Knight sort of retirement. Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, we can do the theories, but I think it's really excuse me, it's really interesting to see where this is going, and I do think we'll have to do a whole theory show.
We'll have to do a whole show, yeah. I do want to say though, our next reviews, I don't know how you feel about this. I think we should combine Captain America and Thor.
The first Avenger and the Thor, we can do that.
I feel like that's a good way to do it. No?
Sure.
All right.
Excuse me. Yeah, I'm choking. Yeah, we'll do that. Yes, we're going to. The next 2 movies are the first Captain America, the first Avenger, and then the Thor movie, which is our first introduction into that. So that will be next. So, Mitch, what do you have going on now that the NFL offseason is kind of in a little bit of a downward part, but we do have the draft coming up in the middle of April. So tell us what's going on with you.
We kind of have that period where we're transitioning, so there's still some things to do in terms of wrapping up free agency, getting people a little bit excited about their teams and such. So there's going to be some lists sort of videos and a couple of other winners and losers and some of the free agents talking about them that are still available. And I'll also be doing some sort of power rankings for the NFL with the free agency just happening. And then we're going to transition into the draft. We're going to have some mock drafts and stuff of that nature. So go ahead, head over to the Bottom Line View and you'll see myself, Kev Ole, over there.
Yeah. There are 250 free agents still out there.
Perfect.
Just so you know. So there's still things that can happen. Myself, we've got a bunch of stuff going on. You're going to hear... we're going to talk about Generation Z and business with Marissa Schwartz. That's coming up. We'll be, as the Alberta election goes on, we'll be doing some Alberta election roundtables. We will have our first one next Monday. So we'll be doing that. And I do think we're going to be reviewing Captain Marvel rather quickly, but we'll be confirming that. And then, of course, the website should launch this weekend, kevinolenick.com, so you can go there for more. Follow on KVOLE on Twitter, Facebook, Kevin Olenick, like, agree, or disagree the podcast. Subscribe on iTunes and Spotify. This was fun. This was a good way to combine these two reviews, I think, and they do connect in a little way. So thanks.
Yeah, I think it went over well. So we'll have to do it again with Thor and Cap.
All right, sounds great, and we will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.